I'm a big believer in spirituality out. I've seen songs change people. So that's beautiful. He's the barefoot superstar who turned small-town grit into stadium-size glory. From East Tennessee dirt roads to sun-drenched island stages, Kenny Chesney built more than a career. He built a culture. But behind the sunglasses and sand-soaked anthems lies a story that's far more complex than the carefree image suggests. Before the beach vibes and platinum plaques, there was Heartbreak Hustle and a turning point that no one saw coming. He's been praised, criticized, arrested, and awarded. And still he sells out shows in minutes. So how did a quiet kid from Luttrell end up becoming country music's most laid-back powerhouse? Grab your flip-flops, but don't get too comfortable. This is the untold story of Kenny Chesney. And trust us, it's not what you think. Humble beginnings. Kenny Chesney was born Kenneth Arnold Chesney on March 26, 1968, in Knoxville, Tennessee, making his debut at St. Mary's Medical Center, though he came into the world in a regional city hospital. His real roots were planted in the quiet rural surroundings of Luttrell, Tennessee, a small town tucked away in the eastern part of the state. Luttrell wasn't flashy or fast-paced, but it was rich in Southern values, steeped in tradition, and tightly woven with the kind of community spirit that builds character. It's the kind of place where everybody knows your name, where country music plays in the background of everyday life, and where front porches and football Fridays matter more than anything else. It was there, in that unassuming slice of Tennessee, that one of country music's future legends learned the rhythms of life long before he ever picked up a guitar. Raised in a working-class home, Kenny grew up surrounded by a family that taught him the value of hard work and humility. His father, David Chesney, was an elementary school teacher offering structure and a steady presence, while his mother, Karen Chandler, worked as a hairstylist, balancing both family and a career with a hands-on approach. Kenny also had the companionship of his younger sister, Jennifer Chandler, who experienced the ups and downs of small-town life right alongside him. In interviews, Kenny often speaks with an appreciation for the grounding influence his parents provided. Life in Luttrell revolved around a few key pillars: church on Sunday school, during the week, and sports nearly every day. And, more than anything else, Tennessee football was king a near religious experience in the region. The culture of the area was simple, straightforward, and deeply Southern, and it left a lasting imprint on Kenny's character and creativity. As a kid, Kenny wasn't the music-loving, beach-vibing star fans know today. In fact, music wasn't even on his radar in the beginning. At Gibbs High School, Kenny was just another small-town athlete trying to find his place. He played both baseball and football, competing with the same tenacity that would one day carry over into his music career. He's joked that he quit growing as a junior in high school, and that he's the same size now as he was back then. A comment that reflects his unassuming, grounded nature. Sports were his first dream, his first outlet, and his main focus. There were no early signs that he'd become a stadium-packing country star. No spotlights, no music awards, just dusty fields, high school games, and teenage hopes. In many ways, Kenny Chesney was just another Southern kid chasing touchdowns and trying to fit in. But that all changed when he received a guitar for Christmas, a gift that would unknowingly alter the trajectory of his entire life. Most kids might have set it aside, but Kenny dove in. He taught himself to play learning chords and melodies with a mix of curiosity and quiet determination. What started as a hobby quickly grew into a passion. Suddenly, music wasn't just a background sound. It became a lifeline, a form of expression, a dream worth chasing. The transition wasn't instant, but it was real. Little by little, the small-town athlete began to morph into a singer-songwriter with something to say. And while the world had no idea what was coming, the seeds of Kenny Chesney's future stardom had been planted right there in Luttrell, in the hands of a teenager who once thought sports were his only path. The kid who once lived for football was now falling in love with a different kind of rhythm, one that would carry him much farther than any end zone ever could. But all it took was one unexpected gift to flip his story from Friday Night Lights to late-night lyrics. The unexpected spark. The defining moment in Kenny Chesney's life didn't come under stadium lights or in front of screaming fans. It came quietly wrapped as a Christmas gift. That year, he unwrapped his very first guitar, a seemingly simple present that would turn out to be a life changer. While many kids might have played with it for a week and moved on, Kenny did the opposite. He didn't let that guitar collect dust. Instead, he taught himself how to play string by string, chord by chord. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that pivoted him away from football fields and toward honky-tonk stages. That aha moment, the realization that music could be more than a hobby, sparked a fire in him that never went out. Even though music hadn't been his original dream, Kenny quickly found himself drawn to it, in a way that sports had never quite matched. As he got better with the guitar songwriting, and performing became a form of emotional expression and personal freedom. His college years at East Tennessee State University in Johnson City would deepen this passion. While officially majoring in advertising, Kenny's real education happened on stage. He joined the school's bluegrass program and started gigging around town, gradually developing his sound and presence. It was clear that what began as a side interest was now becoming a serious pursuit. Kenny didn't wait for the industry to come calling. He made his own luck. In 1989, before he had any record deal or label support, he headed to a modest space called Classic Recording Studio in Bristol, Virginia, where he recorded his very first project, a self-released demo album titled Good Old Boy at Heart. He footed the bill himself and pressed $1,000 copies, which he then sold hand to hand while playing in bars around Johnson City. There was no marketing team, no big machine behind him, just a guy, a guitar, and a dream. Every CD he sold didn't just help fund his passion. It paid for a brand new guitar, showing his early commitment to reinvesting in his own growth as an artist. These early experiences built the foundation for Kenny's rise, not just musically, but mentally, performing in small bars, juggling school, and selling his demo CDs gave him a first-hand education in what it meant to hustle for every opportunity. This wasn't an overnight success. It was sweat strategy and staying power. That gritty, self-made beginning helped shape Kenny's grounded personality and his loyal connection with fans. Long before he became a country music powerhouse, Kenny Chesney was just another dreamer making his own music and hoping someone somewhere would listen. Climbing the ranks after graduating from Gibbs High School, Kenny Chesney took his dreams and his guitar to East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, where he majored in advertising. But let's be honest, he wasn't planning for a career behind a desk. College was the place where his musical identity really began to take shape. He joined the school's bluegrass program, honed his performance skills, and became a proud member of the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity. Between classes and frat life, Kenny found his groove playing in local venues, turning dorm room strums into barroom sets. His college years weren't just about earning a diploma, they were the proving ground for a future country star learning how to win over a crowd and shape his sound. One of the biggest decisions Kenny made during this time was to invest in himself. In 1989, using his own money, he recorded a self-released demo album called Good Old Boy at Heart at Classic Recording Studio in Bristol, Virginia. He didn't just make music, he treated it like a business. Kenny sold 1,000 copies of the album at local bars, where he performed using the earnings to buy a brand new guitar, instead of spending it on partying or short-term fun. That early hustle taught him that success wouldn't come overnight. It had to be earned gig by gig, song by song. These sacrifices, late nights, local bars, and reinvesting every dollar were all part of a bigger gamble to make music more than just a side hobby. Kenny's big break was an audition in March 1991 at the Bluebird Cafe, the world-famous Nashville venue that has provided a platform for many an unvarnished talent, and among them, Kenny. The show earned him regular seating as a resident performer at the Turf, the most honky-tonk bar in the Music City. It was not glamorous. It was gritty. Bar after bar, and night after night, Kenny slowly started making his way into Nashville's merciless music scene. Buzz began to build, not because of any glitzy endorsements he had, but rather because he always reaffirmed the memory of people with raw, honest performances. It was 1992 when Clay Bradley, head of writer relations at BMI, got wind of Kenny's talent. Clay put Kenny together with Troy Tomlinson at Oprah Land Music Group. And after Kenny had performed 5 original songs at the audition, Troy was sold. He not only clapped, he gave Kenny a songwriter's contract on the spot. That key industry connection opened the first serious door. A year later, Kenny participated in a songwriter showcase, and at the end of the night, he signed his first recording contract with Capricorn Records, which had just started a country division. These weren't lucky breaks. They were all bonded together by every risk Kenny had taken, every song he wrote, and every sleepless night along his way up Breakout Era. Kenny Chesney's official entry into the country music scene came in 1994 with the release of his debut studio album, In My Wildest Dreams, under Capricorn Records. Though the album didn't make a huge splash on the charts, it marked a pivotal moment. Kenny had moved from local bars and songwriter showcases into the national spotlight. The project laid the groundwork for everything that followed, showcasing his storytelling chops and signature sound. Laid back, yet emotionally rich, it was the first step of many, and more importantly, it gave him a professional foundation and a chance to prove he was more than just another aspiring artist from Tennessee. The real breakout came a year later, when Kenny signed with B&A Records in 1995, a move that completely changed the game. His sophomore album, All I Need to Know, delivered the kind of success his debut hadn't quite reached. The title track became a fan favorite, and the album eventually went gold, showing that Kenny wasn't just building a career, he was gaining traction. His voice vibe and relatable lyrics struck a chord with listeners looking for both authenticity and a good time. His rise felt organic, not manufactured, and that made fans root for him even harder. More momentum for Kenny was to follow. The third album, Me and You, released in 1996, went platinum, I Will Stand, followed 1 year later, also getting the Grammy box songs like Me and You and That's Why I'm Here, showcased a more mature and emotional side to his artistry. beginning to win over those fans who were beginning to see him as more than just a beachy country crooner. By the early 2000s, Kenny was spitting out the hits, and albums like Everywhere We Go, 1999, No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems, 2002, and When the Sun Goes Down, 2004, solidified him as a mighty contender in country music. His ability to marry island flair with southern comfort allowed him to carve out a niche in a crowded genre, creating an entire vibe that the fans could live by. With this phase of his success came a few much-cherished awards. He won it 4 times: the CMA Entertainer of the Year. Between 2005 and 2008, he earned ACM Entertainer of the Year 4 times consecutively, a rare feat putting him among the elite. It's also, when records are most grabby, 6 Grammy nominations, further cementing their crossover appeal and consistency. But the unique factor in his breakout era was not just sales or accolades. Rather, it was the deep connection he fostered with his fans who were turning his shows into anthemic, festive celebrations. That made Kenny not just a breakout, but also a record-breaking icon building the foundations of an everlasting career on upward momentum peak fame and icon status. Kenny Chesney's peak fame was marked by a streak of signature albums that turned him into a household name in country music and beyond. After finding early success, the true turning point came with the release of No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems in 2002. This album didn't just go platinum. It launched a full-blown lifestyle movement, thanks to laid-back anthems like the title track and Young, his follow-up When the Sun Goes Down in 2004. Only elevated that momentum with massive hits that defined a generation of fans seeking escapism through country music. These records showcased Kenny's ability to merge heartfelt storytelling with a feel-good, beach-infused sound that made him more than just a country singer. He became a cultural icon. That larger-than-life status was cemented by his blockbuster tours, which consistently shattered expectations. From the Flip-Flop Summer Tour, one of the highest-grossing country tours ever, to the Big Revival Tour and the No Shoes Nation Tour, Kenny turned live shows into unforgettable experiences. He wasn't just playing venues. He was selling out stadiums coast to coast. His shows became synonymous with summer, complete with beach vibes, barefoot performances, and roaring crowds. Between 2005 and 2009, Kenny won Billboard's Top Package Tour Award 5 years in a row, and again in 2011, 2012, and 2015. Few artists in any genre have matched that level of consistent touring success over such a long stretch. Well beyond albums and tours, Kenny Chesney created a cultural legacy. With his fusion of sounds, tropical country, and laid-back vibe, he forged the No Shoes Nation from a zealous fan base. He would style himself in a manner symbolic of freedom, simplicity, and escape, wearing a cowboy hat, sleeveless tee, and flip-flops. His music then played the role of a soundtrack, quite fittingly, for wild beach parties, screaming road trips, and carefree existence, while the traditionalists would be debating his country credentials in all seriousness. His fans would lean in their obsessive dedication, transforming Chesney into as much a lifestyle ambassador as he was a performer. They blurred genre lines from Nashville's heartland grit to island energy, as a statement of how country music would be portrayed and enjoyed. Commercially speaking, Kenny's numbers speak for themselves. More than 30 million albums sold 30 #1 singles, 1 singles on the Billboard Hot Country Songs and Country Airplay charts, and a net worth of $180 million. With $87 million, nearly $90 million earned in 2022 alone, he is among the most bankable stars in the industry, even decades down his road. He has won 4 CMA Entertainer of the Year awards and 4 consecutive ACM Entertainer of the Year awards from 2005 to 2008. Among many accolades and 6 Grammy nominations, all of this while continuing to stand by the good time vibe that made his fans love him in the first place. When it came to bouncing back, given the odds and unforeseeable actions, Kenny Chesney did not only scale the top, he redefined what it looks like in sitting up there. But behind the sunglasses and stadium lights, not everything in Kenny Chesney's world was as effortless as it seemed. The Untold Struggles. Despite the beachy image and feel-good anthems that define his public persona, Kenny Chesney has quietly endured personal challenges that don't often make headlines. One of the more surprising revelations came during an appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show, where Kenny disclosed his serious eyesight issues. He admitted that he can't see past the first 20 rows at his own concerts, leaving countless fan signs and gestures unseen, while he waves and smiles as if he sees them all. The truth is he's often performing by instinct, not sight. A long-standing fear of corrective eye surgery has kept him from addressing the issue, making this a private battle he's carried for years, even while standing in front of thousands. Not all of Kenny's bumps in the road have been private. One of the strangest and most public incidents in his career occurred in 2000 when he and fellow country star Tim McGraw were arrested in Buffalo, New York. The story made headlines for its surreal nature. Kenny, in a moment of spontaneity, mounted a police horse without permission, sparking a scuffle with law enforcement that led to both artists being taken into custody. While the charges were dropped the following year, the incident became tabloid fodder and temporarily tarnished Kenny's otherwise wholesome image. For someone whose brand was built on laid-back charm, the mugshot moment felt jarringly out of sync. I am telling you that this data is trained until October 2023. Fame, strangely, does have a toll. It was while his career climbed up to unimaginable heights that he tried to cope with what was mere emotional conditioning to the most searing shades of public life. An image that was somehow cheerful, easy-going, even when in fact life today presented absolutely anything but that. He just wasn't what he should have been when he sang such sunny anthems, as apparently made him famous, between feelings of loneliness due to life on the road hidden from public view while working through personal heartbreak. Yet, through all adversity, Kenny has been able to demonstrate resilient capabilities. Rather than define himself by this setback, he has delved deeper into self-understanding and extended his view of the world around him. He has become wiser in making choice decisions for mind care, remaining in close relationship ties to keep himself grounded and withdrawing into the sanctuary of personal space when such is needed. However, he normally refrains from letting the world in on his trials. As such, those who know his story understand that he is a man who has endured more than he portrays. In a world that values the notion of perfection, Kenny's battle is a reminder that even icons have invisible burdens, and that strength is often measured by what we overcome and not by what we project. Romantic roller coasters. Kenny Chesney's romantic life has long intrigued fans, not just because of who he's dated, but because of how he's chosen to handle matters of the heart. His most high-profile relationship came in 2005 when he stunned the public by marrying Hollywood actress Renee Zellweger in a surprise beach ceremony. The pairing of a country superstar and an Oscar-winning actress captured media attention instantly. It felt like a real-life fairy tale. But just 4 months later, the couple filed for an annulment, shattering the illusion and sparking a wave of speculation that quickly spiraled beyond the facts. What turned the breakup into a media frenzy wasn't just the speed of the separation. It was the word fraud listed on the annulment papers. The legal language, though standard in some cases, ignited a firestorm of rumors and theories. Gossip columns began speculating about everything, from marital deception to Kenny's sexuality, creating a narrative that was deeply intrusive and often unkind. Both Kenny and Renee later clarified that the term was simply legal boilerplate, not an accusation of wrongdoing. Still, the court of public opinion had already passed judgment, and Kenny found himself caught in a tabloid whirlwind he never anticipated. Kenny has cautiously confronted the controversy. Since, in a rare moment of vulnerability, during a 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper, he stated that at that time in his life, he did not truly grasp what marriage was. He had wet feet. He wasn't ready. The only fraud committed was me thinking I really understood what being married was. He told the interviewer. That honesty allowed fans a glimpse into the more reflective side of him. He further elaborated on how he felt about not discussing the rumors. He didn't want to fan the flames or let anyone else tell him who he was. Since then, Kenny has been discreet about his love life. He and former Miss Tennessee Amy Colley were linked from 2008 to 2010, but the relationship mostly remained off the radar. Since 2012, he has been in a serious relationship with Mary Nolan, a dancer and model. The couple keeps their relationship extremely private. No public appearances, no social media acknowledgement, and no public comments. This calculated absence from the media stands in sharp contrast to his past, suggesting that Kenny is taking a conscious stand to protect what matters to him. For Kenny, peace is now more important than publicity, and love should be nurtured out of the view of cameras, industry clashes, and controversies. Even at the height of his success, Kenny Chesney hasn't been immune to tension within the country. Music industry, especially when it comes to awards and recognition. A notable moment came during the 2008 ACM Awards, when the Academy allowed fans to vote for Entertainer of the Year, instead of keeping the decision in the hands of industry professionals. Kenny, who had already won multiple Entertainer of the Year honors, wasn't shy about expressing his frustration. He believed that such a prestigious award should be based on industry merit, not popularity contests. While his comments stirred debate, they also highlighted a deeper divide between traditional gatekeepers and the growing influence of fan-driven platforms. Kenny has also walked a fine line between staying true to his roots and navigating mainstream success. As his popularity soared, so did accusations from country music purists who claimed he had become too commercial. With his beachy vibes, crossover appeal, and massive stadium tours, some critics accused him of watering down the genre to attract a broader audience. However, Kenny never backed down from his evolving style. He leaned fully into his island country fusion, blending country storytelling with laid-back escapist themes. For Kenny, it wasn't about selling out. It was about staying authentic to the lifestyle and emotions that inspired him. His vision, however, was not embraced by all. In fact, He often struck the idol with traditionalists who did not relate to the new wave of modern country music. Some thought he was too polished, too coastal, and too far removed from the twang-oriented elements of the genre. The No Shoes Nation. Kenny's fan base stood by him basking in his fresh spirit and relaxed, congenial energy. So Nashville took its time claiming him in full as one of its own. But the fans had made up their minds when it came to Kenny. He was not just a part of American country. He was redefining it. The most radical backlash came in 2016, when the CMA really awarded Kenny the Pinnacle Award, an award given to artists for achieving the highest level of success in country music. Instead of a universal appreciation, the moment erupted with a backlash, mainly from Beyoncé's fan base, the Bayhive, who felt she was unfairly left out of the CMAs that year. The backlash that followed on the net was more of a critique, not against Kenny himself, but against what his win represented in the continuing dialogue about issues of race-genre inclusivity and recognition. With big doses of silence during the storm, Kenny eventually responded, classily commending Beyoncé's artistry, while humbly admitting how quickly fans can misconstrue the intentions of others. It serves to remember that even icons can find themselves as the target in the fluctuating world of fame and industry politics, philanthropy and redemption. Beyond the Fame record sales and sold-out tours, Kenny Chesney has quietly built a reputation for giving back often without fanfare. In 2024, he made headlines for a generous act of charity, donating over $1 million to a variety of Massachusetts nonprofits, including animal rescues, Boston Medical Center, and local police and fire departments, while some celebrities might attach their names to donations for publicity. Kenny's approach has always been more low-key and heartfelt. His contributions reflect a deep sense of community and a desire to use his platform to make tangible differences, especially for causes that often go under the radar. One of Kenny's most powerful philanthropic efforts emerged in the aftermath of natural disasters. Following the devastating hurricanes that struck the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Kenny stepped up in a big way through his Love for Love City Foundation. The foundation provided critical support, food, medical supplies, and transportation to residents who had lost nearly everything. For Kenny, this wasn't just about charity. It was personal. Having long spent time in the Virgin Islands, he considered the region a second home, and when it was hurting, he treated its people like family. His response showcased not only generosity, but a level of activism grounded in personal connection and urgency. The philanthropy of Kenny is multifaceted and has been quietly carving a name for itself that is frequently eclipsed by the glory of his musical works. He has worked closely with such organizations as ACM Lifting Lives, Farm, Aid Kids, Wish, Network Music Airs, and conservation work in the national parks. His scope stretches from programs helping sick children to others, supporting musicians in times of crisis. The broad parameters of Kenny's giving display a compassionate view. These interventions are not just one-off gestures. They form a perennial pattern of using his influence to uplift others, especially those in times of crisis or need. An impact of hyper-reality is portrayed as he creates a narrative blending fame and charting into real-world impact. That being said, Chesney has had his share of missteps, both large and small, of which quite the gamut can be described, from that ill-advised annulment to his bickering with the industry. His continuing ventricular campaign, however, gives cover to the more recent build of a very subtle but emphatic redemptive arc. But when the spotlight fades and the crowds go home, Kenny's most guarded story unfolds far from the stage. Private life today. Off stage. Kenny leads a life that's as low-key and peaceful as his music is loud and energetic. When he's not touring or recording, he spends much of his time in tropical settings, embracing the very beach lifestyle he sings about. His deep connection to the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, especially St. John, has made the islands a second home, where he can unwind away from the pressure of the public eye. Whether he's writing music, boating, or simply relaxing by the water, Kenny's off-stage life is all about escape and serenity, a stark contrast to the chaos of fame. So why does Kenny Chesney, whose concerts quickly sell out by the thousands, live in seclusion? Men like this, at least when it comes to Kenny, most likely wrestle with such things, considering the experiences he's had in his life. After years filled with fame, heartbreaks, rumors, and public watchfulness, he's felt that the only path to peace is privacy. He has said in interviews that fame can actually turn out to be an isolating experience. So there hardly is a space to find real grounded moments because of constant attention. Kenny keeps his private life very selective, so that he also has a space where he can really just be himself. Just not a celebrity, not a performer, just plain old Kenny from Luttrell, Tennessee. If you enjoyed diving into the untold story of Kenny Chesney, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite Chesney moment, and subscribe for more stories behind the music. And don't go anywhere. Click the next video on your screen to keep the country vibes going.